Okay.
And that way after people usually rewatch it. You'll get an audio as well as like the video. Um, and I delete it after 30 days or else I'd have a lot on my computer. So please download as soon as you can.
I will. Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was surprised. You were like, I always wanted one. I was like, okay, let's do it. Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share your chart with you. And have you seen it before?
Never.
Okay,
Oh,
that's you.
wow. That's me.
That's you. Have you, so no astrology readings, like nothing completely,
No,
any knowledge at all?
not really. I mean, I know like basic things about my sign as a Libra, like what my personality is supposed to be. But other than that, no.
Okay. All right.
I'm a virgin.
Awesome. Well, I love popping cherries.
You did pop mine.
So a lot of this is gonna be, I'm gonna teach you about like the chart itself because I think it's a good
Cool.
way to have a first reading and get introduced to how astrology is a language and it's a tool. It's a very powerful tool. Your chart's incredible, and I'm not I'll explain why I'm not surprised why you're interested now, but I'm also wondering if there's been an underlying longing to fulfill some kind of missing element within yourself or feel like there's something missing and there's got to be more.
Interesting. I'm always looking for more.
Okay. It's a very spiritualized soul. So I want you to think of this chart as a picture of your soul
Okay.
and start to think about how your soul is separate from your ego. And the ego is a very good thing. I think we've labeled ego as a negative thing in a lot of mainstream culture. But astrology looks at ego as a good way of us evolving in this life and getting and returning back to ourselves, essentially, closer and deeper understanding to ourselves.
Okay.
And so I also want to ask, like, what is your relationship to God or source or energy or religion? Like, where do you stand on that?
I believe in God. Believe. Oh, hold on, my poor dog's made my ass right.
That's all right. I have two.
So yeah, being raised Catholic, I don't believe in the Catholic religion. I believe in the universe more than anything. I believe in um listening to the universe. The universe talks to me. I have spirits that talk to me. I have I kind of like I always consider like my own religion, my own
Yeah.
belief system. I believe in what you give out, you'll get back tenfold. You want to give out negative, you're going to get negative back tenfold. You want to give out good, you're going to get back tenfold good. you know I guess that really kind of is the gist of it. I definitely believe in signs and paying attention to them, and the universe talking to you always.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not surprised. In another life or many other lives for you, you were a healer. You
Hmm.
were the sage, you were the mystic, you were the medicine woman, you were the psychic, right? You were the go-to
Right.
for that in many other lifetimes. And it's very, very loud for you because you have this whole congestion happening right here. You can see all these planets in your
Hmm.
12th house. Yeah, and we'll get to know that a little deeper. Um,
Okay.
and there is a part of your chart that has been waiting to return back to a sense of knowing this even more. But I'm not surprised that if you are able to communicate to the other side, if you are a natural medium, a natural channel, your intuition's probably pretty strong. And the more you learn about your body, which was activated obviously recently to another
Yeah.
level, the more heightened your sensitivity becomes to your deeper intuition because you're learning about purifying, cleansing your body, and you're learning that the body is just an extension of your soul. It's just a vessel for communicating. But the more that you become knowledgeable about relating your body to more healthy routines and basically purifying it, the more spiritual stuff's going to start to come through for you. And you were born with it already loud. But it's supposed to manifest stronger and stronger and stronger.
Interesting. Yeah, my intuition definitely, as I have gotten healthier on my path, and I've always had good intuition, but it's like, oof, it's becoming on fire.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And oh god, there's so many activations going on because obviously I know you from the team, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yep.
let's look at what was happening then too, and all these things made sense, and I'm like, oh fuck yeah,
Mhm.
because you are like 3 years away from what we call your second Saturn return, and you see this
Okay.
planet right here, Saturn. Um, it's a part of our chart where we're learning to develop like a really deep emotional wisdom, and we all have Saturn somewhere in our chart, and so everyone has a different journey with this planet, but it definitely teaches us about emotional maturity, emotional wisdom, and it also teaches us about building structure in our life and having good boundaries. And one of the other things I was wondering about your chart was, the first Saturn return happens at 28, starts at 28, and it really doesn't end until 31. And that is usually a time where people move, or they get married, or they have children, or they change job direction, or they have these big life-changing experiences,
Yeah.
right? That's the
Yeah.
first return. The second Saturn return, right, which you're heading into in about 3 years, it begins, um, is a repeat of that time frame. However, you've had another 30 years to learn from the first 30, right? And
Right.
specifically for you, the way your chart is set up, because you've got Pluto on the south node over here, which is not all charts have this, right? Specifically for you, a lot of like your life growth was supposed to be service oriented. We're supposed to be helping others, relating to others, giving to others. It's not until your second Saturn return now where those dynamics are going to change, and you'll start to feel this internal change. It's not that you won't want to be of service to others. It's more about all of the lessons and all of this time of giving your natural gifts that, like I said, you came into this life. Like, you good soul energy, like you've been a good soul for many lives on earth. And so you essentially had to repeat being of service, because in other lifetimes prior to this one, your soul already elevated. Like, it already was sage energy, right? Mother wisdom, healer. And so you were meant to reincarnate as a Libra rising, to have all these relationships with other people and things, so you can provide your good energy and your giving energy to others. And throughout all the 60 years, but when you get to your second Saturn return, right, those things are going to start to shift. It's almost like now you'll realize that if you aren't getting these realizations already, like everything you've done for other people, what's that really taught you about yourself and how you are actually God or goddess, right? You are that source energy. Then you get to return it to yourself. So things, they
Oh,
change.
wow.
I don't know
Interesting.
if you feel any of this now, but it will be more loud in a few years.
Okay.
Um, so another thing is you got Saturn and Taurus. So, and it's in the seventh house, and I'm paying a special attention to this because to me it seemed kind of important to look at your relationships in life and how you feel about relating to other people, like how have they been? And because with Libra, and you're also a Libra rising, your rising sign is Libra as well. You know you're a sun in Libra, but you're a double Libra.
Oh, wow.
The rising sign is the part of the sky that was rising, the part of the sky that the sun was rising in when you were born. And so you can think of it as an extra layer to your personality, to your ego. And it's an instinctual nature. So not everyone understands they have their rising sign. And then I start talking about that and they can see the symbology of this come up, right? And so Libra rising, it's instinctual. You don't know it's happening. It just happens, right? The soul is just learning to grow into this archetype more. And so what happens for Libra rising people is we have to learn how to relate to people in life through other people. Relationships become a way of knowing thyself more.
Mm-hmm.
And there tends to be a drawing in of really extreme relationships and situations with people that can lead us really off balance because everyone thinks Libra is balanced and Libra is trying to learn about balance. It's trying to find balance, but it is through the extremes of relationship dynamics that is going to be understood.
So true.
So what happens is the Libra rising. So for you, for instance, especially with the 12th house sun in Libra, highly sensitive, highly attuned to the needs of others, really good at listening, usually really good listening skills, can understand other people. But the problem is understanding other people's needs and then sometimes trying to meet their needs at the expense of our own. And then there becomes this dynamic where, you want the connection, you want the inclusion, if you will, with other groups even or people, but then there's also this polarity that happens where you become drained, your own needs don't get met, and so then you can find yourself in this isolation, right, energy of like, oh, I was so social this week but now I just need time alone, I'm just so drained, I
Mm-hmm.
can't. And it becomes this, this back and forth, this oscillating stuff, right? And so
Yeah.
really the point that is the evolutionary journey, like why your soul chose a part of this path to be a Libra rising, is to learn about other people's needs, your needs, but also being able to establish boundaries. And the boundaries thing is that Saturn in the seventh house, right? Like learning
Yeah.
to say,
Yeah. Boy, I can't even tell you how you nailed that on the head, especially lately. Like this year particularly, has been very much all about boundaries and what is good for my soul, what is good that makes me feel good that I'm not going to put up with. And I hate to say it, but this actually comes along with Irene. I kicked Irene to the curb because she was just too toxic for me, and I needed to set boundaries. I wished her well, no negativity, like whatever. But it was I have certain amount of time for the people that are worth. I give a lot.
yeah,
I don't expect anything back when I give. I don't
yeah.
expect anything back when I give. But if I'm giving to you, it better be because you earned it and you deserve it. Yeah. So it's crazy that you said that.
Do you feel bad when you do that?
No, not now. In the past, absolutely.
Okay.
Not anymore. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
I
it's
feel much
very,
more empowered.
yes, okay, because that's really this was like a theme, right? Like I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like compassionate person, clearly, like spiritual person, right? That's why one of the questions was like, what's your relationship to God, like, and what does it look
Right.
like? Spiritual person, spiritually evolved soul, very giving. You've got your moon is in Leo, right? Your moon is our sensitive part, right? It's our heart. It's where we find connection with other people. It's how we love it. think about like the actual moon in the sky and how it has all these craters in it, right? All those craters are formed from like loving people and
Oh,
falling out
wow.
of and heartbreak, right? If you can think of the symbology of that, right? And family,
Yeah.
and that's our moon, right? That's how we find empathy and compassion and connection. And you've got yours in Leo, which is an archetype of like giving nature. Like Leo is here to just show up and spread sunshine basically into people's life, and it is through a heart-centered approach, right? But there can come this time where like in times, whether in this lifetime or prior, that's been at the expense of your own self-sacrifice. And so and
Definitely.
it yeah, and so I'm not surprised that these relationship dynamics will be triggered for you right now, and more so next year when I'm going to pull up the transits, which don't get overwhelmed or confused. And if at any point you have questions, just let me know.
I will.
Um, but the transits are on the outside of the chart. So the inside is like your natal chart. You were
Okay.
born, it's the snapshot. The outside is where the planets are like right now as we're speaking. And
Okay.
so they help, they're triggering planets in your personal natal chart, so they're causing triggers in our outside world, right, in our actual life, which
Yep.
is helping the chart evolve and stuff and lessons, and that's how I do predictive work. That's how I can tell when things are going to come up for people and whatnot.
So
um
cool.
so right now, I'd ask you some other questions about, what's happening with like your sense of creativity and where you're putting your work and time and energy and new ways of expressing yourself. And is that going to change your work life? Is that changing your, what you're thinking about work? Are there any shifts right there? Or even like your daily routines? Like I know the fitness journey, you've been doing that. It's kind of engraved in you at this point. It looks
Yeah,
like you've
definitely.
routines down, right? That's permanent.
Yeah.
um but once Saturn shifts into Aries, which is going to be I think sometime late next year, it's going to start to bring up those skills that you've learned about saying no to people and practicing boundaries with people, which essentially is going to highlight the thing I talked about in 3 years, where you're going to be like, okay, I've done a lot for people, like, and I still will, but how can I do this for myself? Like, how can I center this to myself more? That'll be the
Right.
question,
Very
you know?
cool.
Yeah, it's a big transit to be prepping for and to come up with. So, um, I wanted that to highlight, but what's going on now as far as work, career?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about where I want to go with my work and my career. I've had things that I'm juggling in my head, I guess, I've got business cards done so that I could go out and do surgery for other people, but I haven't yet got out and put my cards out there yet and be like, oh, here I am available to do surgery for you at your hospital. I got to do that. I keep saying I'm going to do it and I haven't done it. you know? And I've been thinking like, okay, so what am I going to do in the next 20 years? Am I going to stay where I'm at? Where is it going to roll to? And then part of me is like, okay, well, I'm just going to roll with the universe because sometimes the universe leads me to where I need to be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. That's where I would figure you are.
It sounded like it.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't ever want to ask questions that are gonna make
Lead, I
somebody,
get it.
yeah, that they're not
Yeah.
where they're at. But yeah,
You can ask
so
me anything.
you're open book.
Mhm.
Um,
I totally am.
does it sometimes feel like when you're at these crossroads, uh, like there's a past that's comfortable, but there's a whole abyss of openness in front of you, and it's like, where the fuck do I go? So you can stay stuck.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But then I also am a person who I've learned to embrace being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I know it's uncomfortable. It's not comfortable to go out and be like, you don't need me or feel rejected, or maybe it's not going to work, maybe nobody needs me, maybe I won't get the jobs or whatever, and that's not always easy, but I like taking the leap. It's just taking that,
Yeah.
I got to get committed to take that leap.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I work
Um,
up to it.
yeah. Yeah. You do. Yeah. That it's like a threshold. It's like a threshold that's gonna be crossed or whatever.
Yeah,
You will have really good luck starting in May if you do start to put yourself out there, because Jupiter, transiting Jupiter, is gonna it's going to move into Gemini, and it's going to start ruling your ninth house, activating your third and ninth house. And that's where we meet communities. I wouldn't be surprised if you start traveling if you want to do that. If
I
travel, and
do.
I don't, okay, that would be more you'd get the luck, you'd get the connections, like you'd get the blessings, because Jupiter's going to move into Gemini. It's going to light up those community houses and also the travel houses for you. And it's also going to start forming a trine to your ascendant and your sun and your natal Jupiter. And that's just really good for movement, for going forward and putting things. Trines are always beneficial energies. They just help us. It's just energy that pops in. And with the thing with Jupiter is we just have to say yes. Like we have to be able to take the risk to enjoy the
Right.
benefit.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So that's like really good. And you're also in this part of your phase. I'll pull up your progress chart. Where did I have it? Over here. That's my client from yesterday. Let me see. Secondary progress. So another little teaching. Again, your natal chart's on the middle.
Okay.
Your progress chart is another predictive tool that I use to help people, and it's on the outside, and essentially it moves the chart 1 degree for every year that you're born. And it really shows the arc of development where the person is now. Especially, I don't always use progress charts with people, but when I see somebody like you who is really conscious of themselves, who've done a lot of work on themselves, it's clear, more elevated, I'll use the
Mm-hmm.
progress chart because it's going to be more accurate as to like where you are psychologically right now and emotionally. And all those things, they manifest out in like the real world, what's happening inside, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so your progress moon phase is like one of my favorite timing techniques to use and tell where somebody is emotionally in their life and what you're like nurturing and going towards. And so April of 22nd, 2021, you entered the disseminating phase. And this phase lasts until June 14th of 2025. So this is really a moment where it's about you sharing what you know and all of your experiences with other people.
Oh
And
God.
is that what you're doing?
Yes, it's really, really, really bizarre, particularly lately. Like, for fitness, even like for fitness and stuff, I'm taking everything that I've learned over the last 2 years, and I'm coaching my niece, the two girls I'm working with. I'm like, and I do it for free. I'm just like, because I want them to be as excited as I am, trying to teach them what I've learned, so it's bizarre.
Yeah, you're aligning with it, and that's good because that's what you're supposed to do, and it's community involved too. So like if you were
Yeah.
to throw your cards out essentially and you wanted to, like, I don't know, you're a vet, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, which is badass, by the way. I'm like, she's an animal
Thanks.
lover. Um, if I could get past math, I would have been a vet, but I
You're a
applaud.
badass pilot. Who are you kidding?
Yeah, it's, um, but it's good to share. It's good to be in that space of sharing your knowledge and stuff. And just be open to anything. If people start asking you and coming in, like try to be more like open, like to, because you don't know what other doorways, because you're in this path of like doorways could be open because of that, right? Which you're like, I don't know what could happen, but it could happen,
Right.
right? Um, and I also encourage people under this kind of transit to write and speak, right? Do writing or speaking, whatever you're called to as well. Like kind of start leaving that imprint, if you will,
Okay.
out there. In June, from June 14th, 2025. So we're looking at next June. So you're gonna get to enjoy this phase for a little bit. You'll feel the shift. When the progressed moon shifts, you feel it. It's so subtle, but it's a psychological just movement within you. And you're following a natural cyclical rhythm of your soul evolving through time, right? And so your progressed moon moves throughout the whole chart over 30 years. It spends about 2.5 years in each sign, and it highlights different areas of your life at a time. So next year you can expect a change in your beliefs, change in your belief patterns, an internal space, like starting to be like, oh, maybe there's a crack here. I once thought I believed in this, and maybe there's a little crack or something, those things
Mm-hmm.
will start to come up because there's going to be this new views that are being born, and that time frame is going to start prepping you for your second Saturn return. It's all going to
That's
float. Okay.
very cool.
So let me go back and just bring up your natal chart, because I want to I know I'm giving you like a lot of info, but I want to take you around the around the wheel too, so you'll know how
Okay.
to like look at this later. So you were born oh, and do you know the story of your birth?
Not really. No, just that I was born in the hospital.
Relationship to parents or relationship to home life, was it kind of like cold and rigid?
That's my mother. You just nailed her.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
And was there so there was a lack of, it was either going to be, I was going to say maybe a lack of resources or a lack of emotional connection.
both.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely both. Yeah.
Okay. And around uh 15 years old, no, I would say, yeah, anything significant around 15? Like, was there a big move or a big loss or a separation? 14, 15?
14. Trauma, could be that be loss?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was raped.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry to, bring
I'm
sensitive
an
things.
open book.
Okay.
And you know what? I I wouldn't change it. People would say, "Oh, I wish it never happened." It happened. I can't stop it from happening. It did, and I'm proud of the person it made me become.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
made me a much stronger woman after going through that. And I do believe like every heartache, trauma, whatever it is that you go through, you can either take and learn from it and build and become a powerhouse, or you could let it crumble you. And
Yeah.
I'll take powerhouse.
Yeah. 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 And that's your Mars responding to that as well. Because you have an exalted Mars in Capricorn. So there's a sense of resiliency there that you have to be able to protect yourself. Which that when that happened, that Saturn was transiting, like starting to transit over there in your life, and um, you would have started that cycle of learning that emotional self-resilience that really started from mom, to be honest, like a cold
True.
connection and so forth,
Yeah.
was activated and triggered by these other experiences, and would activate essentially that Mars and Capricorn, that you have that strength, that underneath like will to survive, right? That natural survival instinct, which is also going to teach you healthier boundaries, the ability for you
Yep.
to say now, um, and also the ability to basically take care of yourself, right? I'm sure it
Yeah.
brought a lot of trust lessons as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Okay.
That was
So
really cool.
yeah, well, yes, yeah, I also think that I want to be careful how I word it because I don't want to like put things on you, but those are some of the
No,
things that you can teach,
right.
that you're gifted with naturally. Because you know, as a Libra, as a double Libra, as a Libra rising and a Libra sun, you've got Aphrodite energy essentially, right? You're born under the goddess of love and sensuality and sexuality. So you're ruled by Venus, and your Venus is one of your ruling planets is in Virgo. So it's about being of service. It's about healing the feminine archetype as well. And it's in the 11th house. So you can do that through communities, through friends, through groups, and people who have had these trauma, because we can associate the 11th house with trauma, these traumatic experiences. And here you can bring in those relatability skills, you
Right.
know, that we talked about Libra has, that ability to listen to others and teach others and find balance within things, relationship dynamics that come up, it to include our, you know, perpetrators and aggressors. It's about also sharing those skills, knowledge, if you so choose, right? But your
I
soul's
have.
here to learn that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning of the chart. Um, and so we've got Libra rising. So you're born Libra rising, Libra sun. So double ruled by Venus. So Venus is very loud for you. This is the first house is where we experience our body. It's also how we present ourselves, and it's that instinctual part of our psyche that we're coming in here to learn. Again, don't really know it that well, but we're learning through it throughout life and time, and we get better at it. It becomes more loud, especially when you know, now you have the tools of your astrology and you're like, oh yeah, okay, like you can understand that you know, it's more loud for you. Um, the second house often deals with our assets and our money and our personal assets and our sense of self-worth. And you've got a Scorpio ruled seventh house, second house, which means big money, deep money. So, you know, ability to manifest that like big time,
Cool.
especially when somebody develops inner deep sense of self-worth, right? Strong, empowered sense of self-worth. That also manifests into the bank account. And score. I
Yeah.
like to think Libra risings are lucky with a second house Scorpio, because it might not be an easy journey to get the wealth, but it could get there. So it's fun. The third
So the
house,
things
yeah, go
you
ahead.
say though just actually like blow my mind because like you talking about self-worth and everything. That took me, you know, even though protective of myself and being resilient and stuff doesn't still equate with self-worth. And that's something that I have just recently enabled myself to embrace because if I was to go out somewhere and somebody be like, "You're a veterinarian." Oh my God, you're a veterinarian. I'm no better than anybody else. It's not a big deal. I don't tell people I'm a veterinarian
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like it was bragging. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I felt I'm not a bragger. I'm no better than you. Like, and it took me till this year to actually be like, you know what, Diana? Not only you're a veterinarian, you're a female racing cars and you did bodybuilding. You are a one percenter through and through. And fuck, you're okay to own that. You know, you don't have to feel guilty to own that or feel like you're bragging or you're
Yeah.
egotistical. And I would feel very egotistical any year before this. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, yeah. If my boyfriend would tell you, it's like, no, like I would not low key, low key, low key. And now I'm like, fuck it, hell yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's and that's an empowered version of yourself because you did the work, and
Right.
anybody else can do the work. And
Yeah.
the ego or the proudness, which is really that's your moon also being activated, like the proud sense of yourself, right? Without feeling like emotionally like you're offending people because you're very
Right.
sensitive to other people's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not, yeah, it's not show off, it's proud. And the more you do that anyway, the more you light up everybody around you. because they feed off your proud energy, and it shows an example, right, of that sense of like self-empowerment and stuff. So I'm glad that you've reached that journey, because that explodes in other areas too. You
It'll
know,
make me
just
money.
yeah. So now go throw your business cards everywhere and be like, hire me, you need me.
That's right.
And I can be there in an emergency because I've got a racing car.
I love it.
Seriously though, it's about utilizing all the gifts.
That's right.
All the gifts. All right. So then we go on to your third house, which is where you'll find, and this is like, we could one day we can go into the houses like really deep, because we could go deep, deep, deep. Like each house can get 2 hours easily to talk about, but this is an intro. The third house is ruled by Sagittarius for you. So there tends to be an inkling towards learning multiple things, right?
Yep.
Finding a interest in things, and also like can be stuff that really stretches you out of your comfort zone. So think higher thought, Sagittarius, think higher self, higher being. Religion can be things too. Philosophy could be of interest in some areas. Um, and yeah, just kind of stuff that takes you on a new adventure, if you will.
Yeah.
You've got Mars in there, so not surprised that you're very driven when you do decide to take on something.
Yeah.
You've got the
Very
staying
true.
power of Mars. Yeah, staying power of Capricorn, because that Mars, it doesn't give up. Like it likes to do the job and do the job well, right? Basically, like go to the
Yep.
top, climb a mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. That is me. My friends say, like, oh my God, Diana, when you do something, you don't do it half-assed, you do it 110.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's your Mars. It's exalted, so it's a very special Mars.
Cool.
Yep. That's and then so we talked about your fourth house. So you enter the fourth house, which this is also called the house of endings. Um because it's this section of the chart, the fourth and the 10th up here. It's called the angles. There's 4 angles, and they're pivot points in our life. Very, very important pivot points. So when you have a planet transiting over, it's a big deal. When you have a planet transiting the 7th or the 10th or the 1st, big deals, right? So, and you are getting lit up with a lot of stuff right now, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the fourth house is, ruled by Capricorn, so early life, kind of cold, emotionally not there, um, you know, maybe not as supportive as you needed. So essentially your soul chose this to become more self-nurturing and basically learning how to parent yourself. You had to learn emotional maturity, and at a very young age.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Capricorn is a sign that represents a maturity as well. And the fourth house is a highly emotional house, right? So it represents the home life essentially as well. So that's a sensitive area for our chart. The fifth house is the place of self-expression, ego development, joy. It's called the house of joy in Hellenistic astrology. So it's where we can find our hobbies and
My house is
things.
empty.
Yeah. Okay. So good question. Yes. So just because a house is empty doesn't mean it's not active.
Okay.
Never, right? You will learn through astrology that you actually have all of the astrology signs, all of the archetypes within your psyche. Some are just accentuated more than others because you have planets in them, but they all are a polarity, and you have a special chart because Libra is a paradoxal chart. The natural zodiac is got Aries on the ascendant. That's the natural, it's called the Anima Mundi. It's the natural zodiac, or the ancient astrologers use that a lot. Libras have a special task because it's reversed. You can see Aries is over here on the descendant instead of over here on the ascendant. you're basically just reflecting back a whole bunch of shit to people in life, right? So as a Libra rising, so it's a special task.
Yeah.
It's an important sign to have as a rising sign. So the more astrology opens up to you, the more that you realize that all these archetypes, they're polarities, and they all exist within us. That's why it's so crazy. And we can learn so much about us and other people. And so just because there is an empty house, it doesn't mean that it's not activated. It means we have to look to the ruler of that house and where is that, right? And we can lead into it more. So, you know, you've got Aquarius on the cusp of this right here. So you like different things. Like Aquarius is eccentric, right? So it's not linear. It's kind of like throwing a bunch of weird stuff in a bag,
Yeah.
and you look at a little bit of everything, you know. And so you'll be drawn to those unique experiences and things that like aren't they're outside of the box, or they're not maybe what a woman is supposed to do all the time,
Right.
right? And it's unique stuff. So that happens for you. And I forget, do you have kids or
I have a
stepkids?
son.
Okay, you have a son. Okay.
15.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay. So he is what's his sign? Is he
He's a Libra.
he's a Libra. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to think about that because his sun is on your Jupiter. His
What does that
the
mean?
no, yeah, his sun would be somewhere over here at least. Um, I'd have to pull up his chart, but I just got off
Okay.
train
Nope,
in my own head.
sorry.
It's okay. I go off a lot. So okay, so one sun, and you know, sometimes like Aquarius, because this is where our children fall in as well.
Okay.
In this
Interesting.
house is the house of joy and stuff. So sometimes it's like a step kid or something, or you know, or sometimes it's a single child because they're very unique and special and whatnot. So okay. We move on to the sixth house, and that is the house of our day-to-day life and like our rituals. I want to say ritual because it's the stuff that we do every day, like brushing our teeth or going to the gym. And also work falls into
Right.
this because we go there every day. Um, and so that tends to be also a house of like purification and cleansing.
Uh-huh.
Yours is ruled by Pisces. So I did want to ask if routines were hard for you at one point.
Hold on. Say that again.
Your house cusp of the sixth house is Pisces. So I wanted to ask if routines were hard for you at one point.
Um, yeah. 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 I didn't like to be routine. I like to have adventure and change things up. And it really probably wasn't until my whole fitness journey where I really got into a routine.
Yeah. But okay, so usually people with sixth house cusps, like it's better for them to work for themselves
Right.
because
I kind of
you
feel
don't,
like that.
yeah, yeah, because it's a calling to go with the flow every day. However, when it comes to health, spiritual health, which is a part of the fitness journey, those routines can fit into place because it's a part of the purification that we talked about that's needed.
Okay.
And that those are things that seem to fall in, but they can look different every day, or the time can look different, and that might not be the same for everything, you know. But yeah, sixth house cuspers usually do well working for themselves. Well, it seems that you've got that under control. Um, Then we move into the seventh house, and this is our house of relationships and one-to-one relationships. And you've got Aries on the cusp right here. So people who are driven or ambitious or courageous or can handle the heat, if you will, would be good for you. Sometimes maybe they might bring the heat. And
True.
Libra risings can, because that's the house of what you're attracting into. So we can attract as Libra risings, like people who maybe like to argue, or maybe more in the younger years at least, like to argue or put up a competition of some sort or challenge
Right.
us at some.
Yeah.
And over time, we learn that that's just a calling for somebody who can be a motivator in a more healthy way, a motivator. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
Eighth house cusp is where you find your joint resources and money. So this is where we find ourselves with like house loans, business loans. My dog's gonna bark for a second. House loans, business loans, fundraisers, even where we merge our resources with other. But this is also a house of, hold on.
That's okay. I'm used to it. You heard mine.
I know. Piper, come here. Come here.
Come say hi.
Come here. I meant to not sharing the screen. I meant to mute you, but so it was on your recording. Okay, we'll continue. This is also a house of like sex and intimacy, cult knowledge, and death, but not always death in the literal sense, like metamorphosis, psychological, emotional death in those parts of life that change us, on a grand scale. The ninth house is of higher knowledge and higher learning. So again, it's got Gemini on the cusp. So different things might have appealed to you. Multiplicity, think in twos. Not sure if you've had 2 degrees at one point. No.
No.
But this is also a house of foreign travel, of connection with foreigners. It's also a house of spirituality and learning about other religions and philosophy and so forth. But again, just because it's empty doesn't mean it's not activated or anything.
Right.
Jupiter, for instance, is going to start moving into that section beginning this spring and into next year, which is why I'm like, okay, it's going to roll through your 8th house first. So if you're looking to get, if you're looking to merge with work, like you said earlier, do surgeries, 8th house can be surgeries as well. So if you're looking to do things of that nature with other people and then connect with others in the community and do traveling for that, that's when your 9th house gets picked up, right, by that transiting planet. And that's how these things work.
Very cool.
The 10th house is career, so it's Cancer ruled for you. And so you look to the moon and where is that happening and so forth. But Cancer midheaven tends to be in caring professions. It tends to do well in that, where therapy, counseling, nurturing, caretaking, definitely taking care of all the pets that you do, right?
Right.
Yeah. So people are naturally inclined towards that with the Cancer midheaven. And then you have the 11th house, which is where you have your groups of family, groups that become kind of like family, but it's also like networks you're associated with. The Royal Performance Team would have fallen in here, which is interesting because their name was Royal Performance, and Royal is an element of Leo archetype. And your 11th house of groups of family and friends and so forth. I don't know why I keep saying family, but like groups that feel like family or networks of people tend to take on like a Leonic quality. So it's important that you can show up and kind of have your own space and attention in here, because your moon is in Leo there. And it's important that you're validated and seen when you have a new group of friends or so forth. Actually, with the racing thing, it makes total sense, right? Because it's probably a bunch of you that are friends that are racers, but you're still a special person because it's about you on your team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm the only female. Like even there'd be 130 racers and there's like maybe 2 females. So it even becomes more like standout,
Yep. And Leo archetype stands out. Think of it like center stage kind of energy. And that's why I'm so happy to hear your like new sense of like empowerment too, because that's how you're supposed to show up in groups. Like it's okay to be a little selfish here and be like, yes, I'm the spotlight, you know, because it's still you still will make everyone else feel special, right? That's just how Leo can pour out its energy. You'll still do that anyway, even if you're taking up space.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, yeah. And then the 12th house, which is loaded for you, tends to be the part of our chart where it's the unconscious parts of our soul. It's the place where we can connect to God or source energy on a bigger scale. It's where we have a lot of undoing in our life. We have a lot of letting go and release. But it brings us closer to a feeling of wholeness and connection. I'm not surprised that you were in the surgery room and stuff, because 12th house is where we find ourselves with hospitals, right? So these things manifest like very much in reality, you know.
Crazy.
You can think of the planets themselves as actors in your chart, and they all have different roles. And you
Right.
can think of the sign that they're in, how they're acting, and you can think of the house that they're in, where they're acting.
Hmm. Interesting.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So it becomes like layered and layered and layered and deeper over that. So I wanted to give you, I know it's a lot of information, but it's recorded, so you'll have it. So I wanted to give you you know, a bigger understanding of how the chart works overall.
How long have you been doing this? Because the amount of knowledge you have, to me, in this short amount of time is mind blowing. Like
Yeah, and
how deep and extensive and how relative it is, and it's just it really is mind blowing.
it's a lifelong journey, right? So like you don't stop learning or studying, because it's just one of those things that you can take like a special piece and you can learn forever on it. You know, there's so many different techniques, there's so many different versions of astrology, and they all work. It really depends on like how it speaks to the astrologer and
Right.
how I'm made up, right? Because my chart's completely different than yours. So, you know, so we have different lenses, you know, we learn, but I'm also a Libra rising. So I was like, oh, that's funny. Um, yeah. So it just takes time. I've been doing it for 4 years. When I started, I was completely obsessed. So the whole first year I was at my computer like 8 to 10 hours a day.
I could see how you can be dive right in and just be sucked into it. Yeah.
Be sucked in, and you know, if this opens you up to more learning about your own chart, you know, first I'm going to have courses launching in a couple of months that I've been prepping. I'm going to have some free courses that are going to go deeper into the planets and archetypes and stuff for people, so you can start applying it to your own chart. And my daily starcast and is a nice useful tool to if you don't know the language but you're interested and you still want a daily horoscope, like that's there.
Cool.
But I think it's important to teach people in readings, not tell them, but like ask questions and teach people, because really only you can know, you know, yourself the best. So once you learn the language, you start to uncover like other layers. um
Right.
I know I gave you a lot, but I wanted to ask you two things. But any questions that you have for me, if you
Not off
have?
the top of my head, no. If I think of them, I will definitely text you. But no,
Yeah,
I find it fascinating and so incredible, really.
yeah, okay. And I did want to ask you how the last couple of weeks were for you during the eclipses, because they were um, they were activating your ascendant, your sun, and your descendant. You can see these little horseshoes right here.
Yeah.
The nodes are pretty important in evolutionary astrology because it shows our arc of development in life. And so on the natal place, it'll show where your soul karma came from other lives, um,
Interesting.
and where you're heading out. And then transiting nodes kind of give you these little lifetime markers. I'm like, okay, what's coming up for me and how is that helping evolve my natal lunar nodes? Um, late this year, beginning of early next year, you begin your nodal return. So if you want to come back then, that's a pretty big deal as well. You can see how
Yeah,
your chart is setting you up for major shifts that might be imminent right now, like might be tingling, but your chart is setting yourself up for some new development coming in.
I definitely feel it. No doubt. I would say I've been feeling it for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eclipses. Um, the South Node just crossed in your 12th house, so this is going to be a time where stuff from the past comes up, and like I'm saying, like deep karma stuff too, right?
Mhm.
It to be exposed, it starts to be purged, starts to be brought back in, people, situations, and so forth. And essentially, South Node in the 12th house, you know, you're reliving it, you're re-experiencing it, reintegrating it from the past lives, to bring it to others to heal, to help other people learn through your gifts of knowing. But it doesn't mean that it's not triggering at times, or if it's not overwhelming at times, you know.
Yeah,
Just know that. And
definitely.
there, you're already a sensitive person, I'm sure, like highly energetically sensitive. But the sensitivity light gets a little stronger over the next year.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, I've been feeling a shift, and my girlfriend, I'm gonna have to send her to you. My girlfriend Janine, she's a lot into mysticism, and she's extremely psychic. Like she can, when she picks up on feelings and she nails things on the head, it's like kind of crazy.
Mm.
Um, but like 2 months ago, I was like, I'm like, something's happened, something's shifting. I feel a very weird, tingly kind of thing going on. Like it's heavy, and I feel like it's just starting, and I don't know what it is. You know?
Yep. Yep. The clarity will become stronger and stronger, you know, as the next 2 years go by.
Cool.
Sorry, I had a big gulp of soda water and it hurts.
Oh God.
The bubbles. But South Node through the 12th, like, can get a little it can feel a little chaotic at times, like, not that it will throw you off, but it can just feel overwhelming with emotion, and it's hard to bring it to clarity or pinpoint it sometimes. And so I don't know if you have any practices that you do now, but the North Node through your 6th house is asking you and encouraging you to do those modalities, right? Like your fitness routine is one of them, but meditation, like, I don't know if you've done meditation.
Haven't
Um,
been big on meditation, and I know it's something like I should probably do. I do like my type of meditation is I go for a walk in my head. We talk inside my head. That's
okay.
my kind of meditation. I don't actually sit and meditate, you know?
Yeah. So because your chart, like, you're naturally super psychically attuned, and you have like it's just a loaded 12th house. A part of this growth is bringing clarity through all that and learning to actually read it, essentially, right? Learning to go to your North Node now. And I think that's what this next Saturn return will be. A part of that will be for you, but we'll get there, because it's not here yet, right? It's still 3 years away. But you know, one of the things that happens with a strong 12th house person is you have a strong pineal gland, right, behind the third eye. So you can have
Yep.
a really strong third eye and a really strong crown chakra. So when you meditate and you sit with your eyes closed, you're actually activating the melatonin that can be increased, and it will help and heighten your pineal gland, which is going to help clear out the thoughts and stuff that can come up with a lot of Virgo energy that you have. Clear that out so that more clarity can come through. And it can come from pictures, like say you just try some meditation practices and you sit for 10 minutes a day And like you're like, I don't know why I saw this whale jumping through the water, but that's what visual came through. Jot it down and think about it for the day. Like, why would I think that, right? Or when I was in mediumship school and channeling school, you know, everyone gets intuition hits differently. I get words and sentences. So maybe there's like a weird sentence that comes through, like whatever it is, don't guess it. Don't second guess it.
Right.
Just let it come through. And because you've already developed the routine with weightlifting and all that, I feel like adding something now that the North Node has gotten into your sixth house that would help with this, right? Help with the South Node, because the South Node just crossed into the 12th. So you were feeling it the last 2 months. It moves very slow. Let's even look back. You were feeling it the last 2 months. You see how slow it moves? Like it's the 15,
Yeah.
6, right?
Yeah.
It didn't cross until around January, end of January.
Yep. Interesting.
And that's the eclipse point too. It's like activating that. And eclipses are just like new moons and full moons on steroids.
Right.
So sudden losses, sudden revelations, and new beginnings coming in as well. But we have to clear out some energy first for that new stuff to have space to build.
I'm going to start meditating.
Or anything, you know, I don't know, like uh um if sound healing interests you, like going to a sound healing class, because they bring you into a meditative space.
That would be very cool.
Like
I like
anything like that,
that.
you know what I mean? Anything like that, where
Yeah.
you kind of get into a spacey realm. Woo, you know, like you can
Yeah.
elevate your mood, you can elevate your feeling, like even just dance, like a dance class or something, right? Like ecstatic dance or anything like that can elevate you. They can
Right.
bring you into that space. And you don't have to
Very
talk to someone,
cool.
you know, like you can be in your own
Be
world.
in my own space. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that's very cool. I like that. Very
So yeah,
cool.
if you don't have any questions, I
Not
can.
right now.
Okay. All right. Gave you a lot.
You did. You gave me a lot, and I'm like, because I said I've never done this before, so I'm pretty blown away. Like how s- how spot on it really can be for your journey. It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep going too. Doesn't stop.
Insane. Absolutely insane. Yeah. I definitely we'll definitely do more in the future.
All right. All right. Well, I'll send this to you on your email. So just I'll stop the recording, by the way, because I had a question for you.